you to the candidates for being here again. And helping us tonight with the first 5 questions are Dr. David Lopez. He is the President Emeritus of National Hispanic University. And we also have compañera Yolanda Guerra. She's a highly talented visual artist and an art educator at San Jose High School. Yolanda will start our questions. Go ahead, Yoli.
Good evening, gentlemen. As Chava described, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to respond. Mr. Lee, you will go first, and then Assemblymember Chu. Our first question asks the candidates to address the county's relationship to children and family success in schools. The County School Link Service Program was established by current District 3 County Supervisor Dave Cortese. School Link Services is a model that coordinates health and social services for delivery on school campuses and in the community. This coordinated service model is a highly effective tool to support the needs of students and their families in order for children to achieve success in school and in life. We like assurance that this program will continue. Please share your level of commitment to this program and your view on county support of children and family success in schools. Mr. Lee, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for the good question, Yolanda. So first of all, I would say that I'll be very honored to have the opportunity to succeed Dave Cortese, who has absolutely done a great job for the past 12 years as our county supervisor. And he has been the leader of many of the issues important to very minority community and also the Latinx community as well. This program, the schoolings that you mentioned, is something that clearly is very innovative. I'm very glad Dave came up with this proposal. And one of the commitment I'm going to give tonight is that I absolutely will not only continue supporting this, but to make sure that the funding actually can potentially increase when the time comes, because the need and the necessity of these type of programs is only increasing, especially in this type of budgetary constraints and all the problems that we're suffering right now in our community. So you have my personal commitment that this is something that will continue. But moreover, I think the importance of our county with children, sometimes people don't understand. They would think, oh, well, education really is a county school board issue, or the local school board should take care of it. Well, the thing is, a lot of the times, the school boards only get the K through 12 funding for the general curriculum. At the end of the day, many of the needed services, for example, whether it's mental health counselings or whether it's internet access, for example, most recently, we're seeing that internet is no longer a luxury. It's not just for watching Netflix, right? If you don't have internet access, you can't go to class right now. If you don't have Chromebooks, you can't attend classes. So these are real challenges that our community needs to make sure that we have. And the county can play a very vital role of funding a lot of this. And I'm very happy to see that we supported this proposal a few weeks ago, and the county has adopted to the emergency funding to making sure that this internet access and the equipment were purchased before school started. And that was huge. Why this is something that is so important, and the county really has a huge role to play. And I'll be a very strong supporter of making sure our children, our family can get these type of support, because only when the children is happy, then our family can be healthy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Assemblymember Chu, you have 3 minutes to respond. Thank you.
So you need to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I really admire her artwork. You know, to answer your question, yes, definitely. Actually, you know, I had a conversation with Dave Cortese, and 2 years ago, I have proposed a bill. So this is not just an empty promise. I wanted to share with you what I have done in this county or school link or state through county to school 2 years ago, I have proposed a bill to make sure that every public school has a psychologist or mental health professional at a ratio of 1 for every 200 students, because the study shows that 85% of the children that has mental health need do not have access to mental health. The number is get even higher when you're talking about the east side of San Jose. So I proposed this bill trying to make sure that county have used up all their Proposition 66 money to spend on mental health and go into the school, because that's the most convenient way for the parents and for the student, and a much more expedited way to be able to seek help almost on a daily basis, of course, on the weekdays. So that bill, I moved it all the way to pass the assembly. But this year, because of the COVID-19 hit, we are shortened our sessions. We only allow one committee hearing per committee. So out of the almost 2,000 bills, they got dropped down to less than 200 bills this year. So the bill is now moving in the Senate side, but I will assure you that I have colleagues in the Senate side who will take on that bill and move it forward. So that will provide some of the funding for what this school and county link will do. This is, I think David started earlier this year, but I have been working on this for many, many years. Like I say,
No quiero micrófono está ahí, ¿verdad?
Oh, time up?
I don't think so. Let's see.
Oh, but I started my public services as a mental health board in Santa Clara County. So mental health is really close to my heart. And I just want to mention that I'm the chair of the Assembly on Art. So I really appreciate your artwork.
That is 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Now for the second question. Again, you'll each have 3 minutes to respond. And Mr. Chu, so you can prepare, please know you'll be the first to respond. Our second question asks the candidates to address the practice of juvenile detention. Last year, San Francisco became the first major city to close juvenile hall. Local community advocates would like to see closure of our juvenile hall. District 3 County Supervisor Dave Cortese has been a partner and champion on this, and continued leadership is needed. Before Supervisor Cortese and advocates fought the system, children as young as 12 were being incarcerated at juvenile hall, and the population roughly 300, with rates as high as 90% Latino. With Supervisor Cortese, advocates have worked closely to reform the probation department, creating the position of juvenile probation chief, raising the age of entry to juvenile hall, and reducing the hall's population to below 100. We need a partner and champion to continue working toward closure of juvenile hall and growth of effective youth programs. Please share your view and level of commitment on this issue. Assemblymember Chu, you have 3 minutes to respond. Thank you.
Chava keep unmuted me, so I need to mute. He muted me, so I need to unmute. But thank you very much for to answer your question. That I will definitely commit 120% out of it. And I'm not just making some empty promises. You need to look at my record in the criminal justice reform. Probably 4 years ago, I have a bill to, talking about juvenile justice. I wanted to increase the age from 18 to 25. I think that there's a lot of research that's saying the human brain are not really fully developed until their age of 25. So say, you know, if you commit a crime under the age of 25, you should be trial as a juvenile instead of a adult. So and I tried to move that bill forward. And we also have made a lot of criminal justice reform to actually help put more resources into the rehab instead of just incarcerated them. You know, and on the average, it will cost the government, you know, state, county, more than $80,000 to put somebody in jail for a year. That's more than the tuition to send the kids to Stanford. So we have really trying to have many bills trying to fix this problem. But really the emphasis is on the money committed to the rehab. We don't want those kids just walk out for free without any support and assistance. So I'm committed to make sure that we have money, you know, to help those kids to be able to get back on their feet. So thank you very much for the question.
Thank you so much for your response. Mr. Lee, your turn.
Thank you. Yes, definitely, I would commit to what was discussed here, because of the fact that the juvenile detention system of our county, I think, has so much more improvement. And just in relations to it, one of the things that we have learned is that our jail system of our county has been very much inadequate in serving people, especially people of color. And what we have learned from the commission that I sit on, which is the Jail Reform Commission a couple of years ago, is the amount of racism, systemic racism, that is still, even right here in Santa Clara County, is very real. As for the juvenile detention issues, I really do not see that system is currently serving as more like a retribution. It's a punishment as to lock people away. We really need to have a complete different mindset of how the system is working. When kids under 18, they are still in the learning stage. And I think it's so important for that system to focus on rehabilitation, not retribution. The current improvement, and as a matter of fact, I was just talking to our first woman, Latina supervisor, Blanca Alvarado, regarding this very issue this happened an hour ago, of what we have done, and there's so much more that we need to do. Many of those has to do with some of the substance abuse, broken family, and also mental health issues. And I think this is one thing that I see is very important, is that we need to make sure that folks who need mental health help is not being put into the criminal justice system. Folks who need help needs to see mental health counselors, we need psychiatrists, and we need social workers to be working with these problems, and not just throw everything into the criminal justice system and treat them as criminals. We see the same thing that's happening with our homeless population. Many people just got arrested and being so-called clean the streets and being thrown to jail for overnight and throwing them back out. And these type of method just doesn't work. And I really don't believe the police should be doing these type of work. So I just want to bring it out that the mental health issues and how important that we are focused on the rehabilitation on our youth. Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
just want to announce, Yoli, that Louis, who is hosting the meeting, he's muting everyone after they speak. So there's to minimize the noise, okay? So he'll open the mic when it's your turn to speak. Go ahead.
My name is David Lopez, and I'm going to ask you two questions, gentlemen. Good evening, Assemblymember Chu and Honorable Otto Lee. Good having both of you. Our third question asks the candidates to share their vision related to seniors and veteran services. Please tell us about your ideas and plans for senior and veteran services. You'll each have 3 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Lee.
Thank you, David, for the questions. As for senior services, let's start with that. Having served on the Sunnyvale City Council, I was a very strong advocate of the starting of our senior center, having it built and having it properly funded, because it is actually one of the most, I'll say, beautiful senior centers that we've built in the area, and partly because of the fact that we're able to not just spend the money to build it, but also fund it. And I think this is something so important from the county's perspective, that these programs are being properly funded, despite of the challenging time of our budget. One thing I have fought really hard for specifically that I want to talk about is the seniors lunch program that we have. It was something that some folks actually want to take it away, thinking it didn't serve that many people. It's just a lunch. What's the big deal? What we've learned is that many of the seniors actually don't have the ability to be cooking. So when you serve the seniors lunch, a lot of times that's actually maybe 2 or even 3 meals. And that's actually the very important part of the livelihood. So a low cost and at times, free lunch program is extremely important for our seniors. And those are the type of services I want to make sure that we continue. The other thing is mobility. We need to make sure that seniors are able to get around. And frankly, we don't really want them to be driving for the safety reasons that also posed on the streets. So I think having very low cost transportation, I'm not talking about $20, I think something like $5 or less is something that we need to be able to provide so that seniors can get around and they have the mobile. Another areas we want to talk about is the veteran services. As a veteran myself, I certainly am very partial and understanding the problem of many of the veterans, especially those returning from a war zone. PTSD is still a very real issue, and then oftentimes we see folks fall through the crack. As much as VA disability is supposed to provide those type of services, a lot of times they do not get diagnosed, or they don't want to be, because of the stigma situation, they don't want to be identified as such. And the county really has a very important role, especially in the issue of homelessness and mental health. Over 30% of our homeless population has been surveyed to have served and were veterans. And I think it is so important to make sure that those who have protected us get the services they so need in our own community. We are one of the richest county in the world, in the country. We've got Google, we have Apple, we have Facebook and Intel. To see the type of wealth disparity is absolutely unacceptable and inhumane, and the homeless situation getting out of hand under the freeways and by the creek side. So I think it is really important to make sure that we take care of them, and especially for those who are veterans. The other one issue that we have veterans is job training. Come back.
Time is up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I can hear your chime now.
You can?
Now I can. Before it was really kind of soft, but now I can hear it. So
I thought I had it up higher. I'll stop you and I'll wave if I need to. But Assemblymember Chu, would you continue to answer that question about senior and veteran services? I appreciate your answer.
Definitely. I was actually named of the champions for seniors by the Human Services, Assembly Human Services chairperson, Eloise Rios, because last year I'll be able to get more than $150 million for the seniors. We're talking about the meal program, but a lot of time, my experience was in San Jose City Council is that the community center serves delicious, nutritious meal, but the seniors need transportation. So when you restore the senior meal program without having money attached to the transportation, and the outreach was went out of service at that time, we actually created the difficulty for the senior to actually taking advantage of those delicious and nutritious meal. And so I have and that $150,000 to make sure that money will go to the transportation and be able to provide the transportation for the seniors to go to the senior center or whatever, serve hot meals for the seniors. And also, and that bill I have also allocated money to retrain, provide some job training for the seniors, because now people live much longer and they retire at 65 or 70, but they still have many, many years of productive life ahead of them. So we will have money allocated so that they can acquire some of the skills, some of the learn or pick up some of the hobby like an art or craft to enrich their life. So that's why I was awarded as the champion for the senior last year. And veterans, definitely, we all have our heart. They all have a place in our heart. When San Jose, we have some surplus property, and we're trying to we don't have enough money to keep the some of the community center open, and we're trying to find the nonprofit organizations to take over some of our surplus property. The one that I have in Berryessa was actually awarded to the Veteran Services Center. You know, Tito Cortez, they took over that center. I'm a regular visitor of that center, trying to provide them as much as resources that we can. And mental health is definitely was a key, was in the key issue when I serve on the mental health board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Assemblymember Chu. Our next question, our fourth question, relates to critical immigrant and constitutional protections and seeks your level of commitment to maintaining these protections. First, the Rapid Response Network is a community defense project developed to protect immigrant families from deportation threats and to provide accompaniment support during and after community members' arrest or detention. It relies on county funding. Secondly, the county civil detainer policy. Under County Board Policy 3.54, our county does not cooperate with ICE, which means that the county does not, under any circumstances, honor civil detainer requests from ICE by holding inmates on ICE's behalf for additional time after they would otherwise be released. Immigrant advocates desire committed leadership to protect the Rapid Response Network and the county civil detainer policy. Please share your level of commitment to these policies and practices. We'll start with Assemblymember Chu. And I'll time it and listen to my chime.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, the answer is yes and yes, but instead of giving you some empty promises, I just wanted to point out to the work I have done in this field. You know, the Rapid Response Network, those people are angels. You know, they pretty much or mostly volunteer to help out with those people that are at risk. And over the years, I have written letters, and I have talked to many of the representatives to really change what the ICE is doing. And so I would definitely support the county policy on civil detainers project. You know, I voted for making California a sanctuary state, and that's all on the record. So as a recent immigrant, I was really fortunate not to have to deal with those type of issues. But I know, living in San Jose in the East Side for 40 years, how much the immigrant has contributed to our society, to our economy. You remember, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, downtown San Jose was like it's like being very deserted. And that was because a lot of Vietnamese immigrants, they came in and they started their small mamas and papas shop. and start bringing some life back to the San Jose downtown. And on the east side, Allen Rock Avenue is the same story. When I was on the San Jose City Council, I worked with Nora Campos, and we started this Allen Rock Business Association, trying to bring some of the business to help with a little small business in the Allen Rock area, all the way to Santa Clara Street. So this is where my values is, and this is what I have been doing in the last 20 years as your elected official.
Very good. Thank you, Assemblymember Chu. Now we'll go to Mr. Lee. You have 3 minutes to answer that question.
Thank you. First of all, the Rapid Response Network in our county is really a wonderful program because it is a 24/7 emergency response network and hotline to allow people to report type of ICE activity in our area. And as we know how these widespread of immigration rates have caused all kinds of uncertainty and fear in our community. And it's something that we as community leaders, county leaders, we need to absolutely support this program because our community needs to be working together. One thing good about the network is that a lot of it is actually done by volunteers. So it doesn't cost the county much money, but it is really important because folks who are at risk of deportation has to be able to afford a due process right. An attorney background, we need to make sure that folks are protected from these unlawful arrests and that the rights of due process is protected. And these are the reasons why I believe I was endorsed by Siren, our eminent immigration rights organization here in Santa Clara County, to protect those who are potential undocumented and the family and the children. We've seen pictures of children in cages, and those are no joke. People being separated. It's absolutely uncivilized, it's unconstitutional, and frankly inhumane. And these are things that we want to defend our community for having to suffer from that. So I'm absolutely a strong supporter of the Rapid Response Network. As for the civil detainer policy, it is very simple. The county went through a very thorough study of what ICE has access to, what information they already have right now, and there's no need at all whatsoever to protect our community by cooperating with ICE, of giving them any more information, or detaining anybody past the sentences when people have served their time. Therefore, we definitely need to uphold the current policy, the 3.54 self-detaining policy that we have in the county, and this is something that I pledge to support, to making sure that our community is safe. Because at the end of the day, our safety of our family and our good relations is based on what the community trusts the government, trust the people who they elect. If they cannot trust the people that they elect and the people that they work with in the government day to day, our community will never be safe. And so therefore, I'm a strong supporter of that, and I want to give you the promise that these are the policies that we need to strengthen in our county. And I'm proud to say that we are a sanctuary county, and we need to stick with it. Thank you.
So question 5, and Mr. Lee, this will go to you first. Question 5 addresses housing and gentrification. Please share your concerns and propose solutions related to the following housing issues that impact Latino families in District 3. 1, the lack of extremely low income housing. 2, the fact that the majority of unhoused are Latino. And 3, the reality that severe overcrowding impacts nearly every neighborhood in District 3. Mr. Lee, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Absolutely. The lack of low-income housing is something that is very, very apparent. I mentioned that's a ridiculous housing cost. I told people housing cost was high a couple of years ago. Now it's no longer high. It's just ridiculous. Folks who are not even low income, I'll say medium income, cannot afford to live in the valley because of that. And so I think it's really important to make sure that we protect all our residents by making housing costs more affordable. One of the things is the BMR, we call the below market rate program. In Sunnyvale, I was the member that actually made the proposal to increase, at the time was only 10% to 12.5%, which make it 1 of 8 housing unit being built should be of below market rate, whether it's for sale or whether it's for rent. It's a great program if it works because of if they're actually being built. The problem with it is that from time to time they would say, well, let's have a new fee instead of the units that's being built. I'm not a big fan of a new fee, but at least I want to make sure that it's being built and the fee might be hopefully being applied to build below market rate housing. But most recently in San Jose, what they did was they actually get rid of the fee altogether, which means that these housing being built actually contributes to no below market rate housing. And that's something that I absolutely would not support. Ultimately, I think it is the housing providers' obligation to work with our community to make sure that below market rate housing and more low-income housing is being provided. You talk about the unhoused, it's absolutely tragic of what we see right now by the creek side and under the overpass. And we really need to make sure that folks are being given at least temporary housing. Some of you have known that I actually served in Iraq for a year, and I lived in a 40-foot container box. Not the whole box, but just 1/3 of the box. But it provided me the shelter, the security. It's got a window, it's got a door that locks, and it's got an AC unit, right? This is the type of very basic but secured place that people could use as a temporary housing. And it's something that I think we should think about, whether you talk about tiny homes, whether it's container housing. We need to increase our temporary housing and shelter capability significantly in our county. One of the things that we know is land cost is very high, but who has the ability to have a lot of control of the land is of course the county. It's not the cities. Santa Clara County comprises of 15 cities, and there are a lot of unincorporated areas which the county is control of and also owns. And I think it's really important to make sure that the county is dedicating to these unused land for that very purpose, to make sure that our unhoused is actually have a place to live. The severe impact is very disparate in terms of racial breakdowns that we can see. And I think it's really important to make sure when we offer these services, we need not just homes, housing, we need to wrap around services.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Chu, your turn, please. Thank you.
Mute. All right. Chava keep muting me, but I just want to share some of the work that I have done. When I was on the San Jose City Council, I spearheaded a North San Jose neighborhood plan. And among so many good things, there is a 20% below market rate housing element in there. And right now, my biggest concern looking forward is a lot of those below market rate housing has a time limit. A lot of them are 30 years, not all of them are 60 years. So a lot of those below market rate housing was built 30, 60 years ago. My term over become a market rate housing. So that's something that we all need to have a close eyes on. And I want to talk about this issue that you brought up on this question. This is all related to the income inequality in the Silicon Valley. We don't have a middle class resident. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are not have a difficult time to get out of the hole. So I would definitely put the income inequality as the front and center of my responsibility as your supervisor. will be able to resolve a lot of homelessness issue, and we will resolve a lot of the social injustice issue. I supported the ADU. I think that's a way to increase our housing inventory. But we have to address the housing issue from three different perspectives. One is production. I don't think, I will not, I don't agree that we're, because most of the county land are the remote area. And this, San Jose will have a green belt, and hard to build on those county land, and their soil is not that stable. So, but we definitely wanted to increase the production by building up instead of building out. In my North San Jose neighborhood plan, please go check on that. The highest density is 90 units per acre. There was a lot of pushback from the residents there, but I tell you, 90 units per acre is probably highest in the South Bay. But I make it through it, and it is in the North San Jose neighborhood plan. The other thing is preservation, and then the last thing is definitely prevention.
Thank you. Thank you both.
So next we have lightning rod questions. I'm going to describe a brief context for you. The answer will be yes or no, and then you have 1 minute to answer if you want to explain your answer. So for the first one is, our community has been working for decades to create the opportunity for alternative land use on the 200 acres at the Reed Hillview Airport surrounding impacted parcels. Accepting federal grants would prevent any consideration of alternative land use. In December 2018, the Board of Supervisors voted to no longer accept federal grants at Hillview Airport. Do you support consideration of alternative uses for Reed Hillview Airport, yes or no? We'll start with Assemblymember Chu first.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, by the 2030, please, I will be knocking on your doors. I will get a lot of community input of how shall we make best use of that land. Okay. I know some concern about the emergency preparedness, but I think we don't need that 200 acres. We should probably, part of it could be reserved from the helicopters to fly in and out, or we can relocate to even remote area. And it's create a lot of noise and air pollution.
It's a brief 1 minute answer. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. Right. Mr. Lee.
Yes, I do support the study of alternative use. The vote has been taking place at the end when Ken Yeager was once the last vote as a county supervisor. And I think it is really important to see what potential we have on this huge 180 acre, so centrally located, that impacts so many people. There's some argument of saying that there's emergency preparedness and whatnot, and it could be used, but I think there are many ways we could solve that problem. And I think the study of it to make sure that we find out ways in the long-term planning, because at the end of the day, even if we vote to close the airport, it would take at least another 10 years to do so because of the previous grant that's been accepted. And that's a 10-year rule from the FAA, basically saying that you cannot close it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have question number 2. Have you publicly endorsed Proposition 16? Yes or no? And then would you like to explain? First, Mr. Lee.
Yes, I have publicly and strongly supported Proposition 16. I've written an op-ed actually of explaining why I support it as a immigrant myself, English as second language. I was a beneficiary
So,
of Prop
we're
16
moving on to the next
to
question.
support
Okay, thank you. Assemblymember Chu?
Hello.
Hi. So it's the same question. Have you publicly endorsed Proposition 16, yes or no? Would you like to explain why?
No, I didn't support it. I was abstained when it was in the assembly. We have been discussing this issue for a long time, and the reason I expanded because there's no money in there. You know, we opened up trying to. The education is actually the biggest equalizer of our community, but I would like to have more money in there so we can improve the K-12 education and lower the cost of higher education. Without money, it will not benefit family like myself. You know, I'm a strong supporter for Bernie Sanders for the reason of healthcare for all and free tuition for all school. Until we get there, the Proposition 13 will benefit the higher class of people, and the lower class people will not be able to afford $30,000 a year to send one children for one school year. And if you have more than one children, you want to be fair with them. That
Okay,
money
I do think the minute's up.
That's
Sorry. We're going to go
minute.
to the next question. Our next question is, will you commit to advocating for universal broadband locally and beyond to address the gross disparity of internet access among low-income families, the majority of which are Latino? Yes or no? And we'll start with Assemblymember Chu.
All right, thank you. Am I muted? No,
you're not.
All right,
I can hear
great.
you.
Yes, definitely. You know, I've been working hard with the Barista School and Ellen Rock School District, trying to make sure when this pandemic hit, make sure that they have broadband services. Yes, the answer is yes, definitely.
Mr. Lee?
Absolutely, yes. Universal broadband is actually long overdue. And right now, it's like a utility. It's like electricity. It's like water. If we don't have broadband right now, our kids cannot study, cannot go to school. This is something is so long overdue. And I'm absolutely a strong supporter that we need to do it ASAP. Thank you.
Okay, so next we will take two questions from the community. The first is from Susan Hayachi. Susan, are you still on?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't see your face, but we can hear you.
Okay. Let's see.
Other yes.
Hi. This is for both candidates. So the majority of Asian Americans support affirmative action, but you may have a lot of pressure on you from some sectors of the Asian American community to oppose Proposition 16. How will you deal with this, and how will you educate them on why it's vital for all Californians of all races to support Proposition 16? Thank you.
How much time do you have to answer this question?
Huh?
Can we let's start with Mr. Chu and then the assembly member.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
I just repeated both Mr. Chu and assembly member. Sorry.
Oh,
Let's
no,
go ahead,
I
assembly member. Go ahead and start, and then we'll go to Otto.
I got to speak twice. Thank you very much, Teresa. You know, this issue has been discussed in the legislature for more than 6 years. It was first introduced by Dr. Hernandez, and it was the SCA5, the Senate Constitutional Amendment. So it happens that we use the same number for ACA5. So this is a issue that has been debated in the Assembly all along. And there's a study, you know, say this is good. I have study here to say, you know, affirmative action is good for the Asian people, and there's study to say it's not good for Asian people. But my discussion with my colleague all along is that we need to put money into this bill. You know, 5 years ago, Kevin DeLeon, the pro tem, and myself, we have allocated $100 million every year, you know, for the low-income scholarship program. And I think we should continue that program. And another thing is why I want to make sure that every high school in California that have a certain percentage of their graduates go to the highest, the best university in California. However, we need to address the cost of higher education. Not all families can afford $30,000 a year to send their kids to UC Berkeley for a year, right? I mean, the money is the key point that's missing in this bill. So we have equal.
Okay, so we'll go on to Mr. Lee now. Can't hear you.
And how much time do we have, Teresa?
1 minute.
We've been doing this quickly, so let's try to stick to 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
I strongly support the need to bring racial equity and fairness to our California society. And this is Prop 16 will get a Prop 209 that has been wrong to our community for the last quarter of century. We need the equal opportunities to all public universities for our kids, and also for gender, and also for hiring in public jobs and contract bidding. Prop 209 has been awful. Ward Connolly brought this up. And since the passage of Prop 209, significant number of Latinx, African-American, and even Asian students have been excluded from our schools on UC's and CHU system. Right now, less than 25% of the student population of USCSU is Latinx, when we have close to 40% of our population is Latinx in the state. This type of disparity is extremely shocking and reminds us that the status quo is not working. Especially now with Black Lives Matter protests, we really need racial equity reform, and it's very clear. And in terms of educating the people, ALPAPA is a very strong organization supporting Asian equality issues for many decades, and has produced many very good videos explaining the need of bringing back affirmative action in not just English, in different languages than Chinese and Vietnamese. And I've been promoting that to make sure people understand this is not just about Asians getting to college. This is far more important issue for everybody, because we do not need people to use this as a wedge to divide the different communities.
Okay, I think we've gotten to our 2 minute limit. We have another question from Olivia Navarro, but one question. Thank you, Olivia. Olivia? Okay, not sure
Hello,
what's
can you hear
happening.
me?
Oh, yes, we can hear
Yeah.
you now.
All of a sudden it went, I couldn't even hear Otto's response. It was like choppy. So I apologize for that. So I wrote the question on the side. This is for both candidates. I wanted to know, do you support, or what kind of funding would you recommend for daycares or after school programs for our low income communities in that east side that you would represent? And then also the first question that I'd like to ask is, do you support a rent control and the eviction moratorium in particular? Because as you know, the majority of the people that are getting impacted are our fellow Black and brown brothers that are mainly renters in the state of California.
Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Lee, and it's a 2 minute response, please.
Thank you. As I said to most people before, 3 to 6 p.m. is the most dangerous time for our kids. Why is that? Because 3 p.m. when kids are off school, the parents are still working. So what are the kids doing between 3 to 6 p.m.? I have 3 daughters. I tell you, they're extremely creative. And if they don't have something to keep them busy, they're up to no good. So I'm a huge supporter of after school program. It saved me when I was in high school, able to go into the library and tutoring. And that's why it's so important that the county is able to help fund these after school program. Whether it's arts, whether it's sports, whether it's tutoring program, this is something absolutely fundamental, necessary to keep our kids safe and learning, to make sure that they will grow properly. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of after school program, especially kids who have language issues, or they might not understand math the first time in the morning. The tutoring program will help them do well. As for the eviction moratorium that the county has done, I think it's done a good job to make sure that people don't get evicted, especially during the time of COVID. It is something that is been extended recently, and I strongly support that program. I think we really need to make sure that the program gets to continue. Then people are able to keep safe. When they lose their jobs, there's absolutely no reason that they need to worry about being evicted. That being said, I just also want to make sure that we also need to have some programs to help some of the landlords as well, whether it's delaying the property tax payment and waive the late fees, for example, because they have mortgage obligation as well. So I think it's something that the county really can do to help everybody to get through this very difficult period. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assemblymember.
Thank you very much. I didn't get the SBO's endorsement just because I strongly support the moratorium. You know, there was only 3 questions asked during the interview, and this is the one, and I differ from my opponent. So we just passed another extension of the bill, and I'm a co-author at the state legislature. And I'm also a co-author, a principal co-author for David Chu's rent control bill. And we know there's still some wrinkles that we need to work out. But it is very, very important that we not giving people the extra burden during this pandemic. People are suffering physically, mentally, and financially. So I don't need to jump over the hoops to be able to qualify, you know, some kind of a system to be able to take advantage of the moratorium. And child care. I was working with the 5 Cs when they're I feel they're not doing a good job, and I supported the Condango for taking over the 5 Cs. So I have young grandchildren myself, and you're talking about the after-school activities. You know, serving on the YMCA board. The YMCA Metro Board is the largest daycare provider and after-school provider. I am on the board to bring the Project Cornerstone to Santa Clara County. So this is very close to my heart, and you can really count on my support, but look at my past record to really see how much I have supported in those areas that you just mentioned.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember.
So thank you. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for attending this forum. And before we close, we'll give each candidate 2 minutes for the closing statement. Please take the information that the candidates have shared with you and share it with your family, friends, and community, and remind them all how important it is to vote in this election. So we'll start with our closing statements. We'll start with Mr. Lee first.
Inshallah, for organizing this really wonderful program. Thank you. I am honored to say that this has been a very long process of running for county supervisor, and it is something that I've worked on not in the past year, but actually past 12 years since I ran for this first time around. And I'm very honored to say that having been appointed by County Supervisor Dave Cortese on the Blue Ribbon Task Force for the jail reform, I really get to learn about the issues that the county is going through and how much reform is needed. Over 100 recommendations were given by that commission, but only less than a third of those has been implemented. And these are the oversight, those are the issues that as a county supervisor, I'll make it a priority to start working on to make it more equitable for everyone. I'm honored to say that I've been endorsed by our county nurses, our teachers, like Eastside Teacher Associations, but also by many of the former supervisors who have represented this district, from all the way back from Dan McCorkadell to Pete McHugh, and of course our own Mayor Ron Gonzalez, who was also supervisor of the district. 4 of the 5 from Peters Council members, and all 7 of the Sunnyvale City Council members. And I'm truly honored to be endorsed also by the Democratic Party, a party which I call my home, and the sole endorsement is very important to me, in addition to 8 Democratic clubs locally. SIGN, as I mentioned earlier, is a group that fight for our immigrants, and this is one endorsement that I treasure very much. And along with SEIU, our UFCW, AFSHME, and countless many labor organizations that is working very hard to make our community better. And I'm very honored to say that as the unity candidate of both labor and businesses, I want to bring the solutions to solve these very, very difficult problems that we are facing right now. And I do believe that I have the proper experience as a logistics officer, having served in Iraq and then 28 years in the Navy. I'm hoping to bring these world experience to the counties to solve the very difficult things that is ahead of us. Because after all, it is our family, it's our children. Muchas gracias por todos. Thank you.
Assemblymember Chu.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for what you have done and you've been doing and day in and day out. You know, as a public servant, the taxpayer has invested so much in me for the last 20 years. I was a full-time elected official, and I'm very humbled and honored for your trust in me. Over the years as an elected official, I have taken more than 10,000 or more votes on various bills and issues. I know nobody, including my dear wife Daisy, agree with me on every vote I have taken. So I know I have, you know, alienated some people, but I can assure you that I always have the best interest of the future of our state, our county, and our city, and our school in mind. You know, you look at my track record serving on the school board, the city council, and now I'm coming home to run for the supervisor. I didn't get the SVO's endorsement just because I strongly support the temporary moratorium. I want to extract the word temporary. So it's the landlords will have opportunity to get their rent back, to worry about their mortgage payment. They're actually programmed to help the landlord with their mortgage payment if their mortgage is backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, some federal guaranteed program. So I'm very honored to receive the endorsement from my Congress member, Ro Khanna, and also Council Member Arenas, Perales, and Esparza. But I'm so blessed and proud to receive the endorsement of the two candidates in the primary election. They are willing to put their lives on the line to run for the office, and who are as committed to Santa Clara County District 3 as I am, especially on the east side.
Assemblymember.
All right. And I just wanted to say I received endorsement from Councilmember Magdalena and John Leyva. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, we wrap up this event. We want to thank you both for your time and your commitment to the community. For everyone that's present here, please don't forget to vote. Thank you for participating in this. We will be posting this on Facebook. So share it on your Facebook. Let other people know the two candidates that are running for this very important position. Don't forget to vote. Make a plan to vote. Vote early. We will also be carrying out some voting activities. So if you go to our Facebook, Latinos in Action 2020, you will see upcoming events. And make sure you take care of your family friends as they are voting. So make sure that they also have plans and that they're voting. And the most important thing we can do for our community in the next 2 months, no matter what your issue is voting. So with that, thank you very much for participating. Vote, 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 vote. Do the census too. If you haven't done the census, that's an important thing to do. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your commitment. Buenas noches. Gracias. Voten todos.
Fill up the census.
Buenas noches todos.
Buenas
Hey,
noches.
thank you,
Buenas
Olivia.
noches.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Hey, Maria.
Buenas
Bye,
noches.
guys.
Bye-bye.